everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Wednesday. Barrett off today. That's Derek. I am Rob. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Just wrap things up with Tom McCarthy. You can check that out, JAKIBsports.com. If you missed any of it, JAKIB Sports YouTube channel in its entirety. Back to the Eagles we go here, Derek. Look, I'll ask you, do you think they should have tagged anybody?
No, they don't do it normally, and I don't think it would behoove them to do it now. As much as we want to, I think Howie is very meticulous in terms of why he doesn't use the tag, and it has worked out extremely well for him in recent years past. So why start now? I think if they had used the tag this time, it would have been a move of desperation, which could upset the apple cart in terms of what they want to do and probably will need to do overall in terms of restructuring that defense in particular. So I'm using the term "in Howie we trust" based on what we've seen him do the last couple of years. Now, we all need to come to the realization, as we've talked about, this defense is going to look different, coaching different, player different. It's going to look different. That one season wonder is not coming back through that door anymore. So we just have to sit back. And to be honest, we can't even formulate an honest evaluation until we get to training camp in August. Because as we saw last year, the wheels never stopped spinning with Howie. Just when we thought he was done getting Reddick, he gets AJ. Just when we thought he's done with AJ, he gets Kazir. He gets CJ, so on and so forth. So I think it's a great topic to discuss from now until the season starts. But in terms of forming an opinion, I don't think it's fair, because even with the coaching and what we see in practice and in preseason, it's not going to look like that in the regular season. You know, the side's not going to show you much of anything, as all coaches don't. Mm-hmm. So I think before we get too far into being upset, which a lot of people probably are at this point and will continue to be, I think the fair evaluation comes when we see what it looks like when they kick off the season. I know it's a long time to wait. In the world we live in today, patience is not at the top of our priority list anymore. But I'm impatient, just like anybody. I want to see it now. I want to see it yesterday. But I think when we pump the brakes and step back and really analyze this thing, we knew this was coming. This is not something that caught us by surprise. Yeah. We knew the prospect was there. Now we have to wait and see how it looks.
Yeah,
I mean, we can do.
I just don't think they feel like it's a good business model to franchise tag these guys. I don't. And
it's worked for them.
Right. And the biggest thing is, like, you're right. This isn't some big surprise to Howie. Like, oh my God, all of a sudden we have to pay these guys. They've known this the whole time, that this bill was coming due and that some of these guys were going to be walking. They also extended themselves a little bit last year to be able to pull all this off. So they knew, they knew that it was coming soon, for sure. And there could be a bit of a step back here. That's for sure. So here's what we know. The pieces that are coming back are Reddick, Sweat, Slay, and Milton Williams. Is there any other obvious kind of key? I think they're pretty much like the big dogs.
Yes, I agree. And Jordan Davis.
Yeah, I would say, a little bit unproven, but you're right. You're bringing those guys back. And then the big dogs in free agency are Hargrave, CJ, GJ, Bradbury, Edwards, Epps, Graham, Kaiser White on the defensive side of the ball.
That's a lot to lose.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. I thought for the longest period of time, CJ, GJ, and Hargrave were going to be back, and I thought they were going to be priorities. And not that they aren't priorities, but for the money we're hearing, I don't think they're going to be back. I think if Seattle throws 20 per year at Javon Hargrave, he's flat out of here. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. And if CJ gets what he's likely to get on the open market, he's probably gone too. I think Edwards and Epps could be back, although Epps has got a little bit more of a hotter market than people maybe thought initially. Mm-hmm. And if you could get Brandon Graham back, like if you could return those guys, you get Edwards back and you team the Kobe Dean up with him. Get Brandon Graham back and you have 3 guys going into the season who are in double-digit sacks. And you bring Epps back so there's not quite as much shakeup in your secondary. It's not terrible.
I think the front 7 will be fine. Maybe not great, but I think it'll be fine, competitive. The back end, needs some tweaking. You know,
Yeah.
if CJ walks, Bradbury we know is going to walk. It needs some tweaking. If Epps walks, that's a big loss. But it's not in dire straits. You know, it's if Slay comes back, you still have Avante. You've got some young players that have to step up. You still have three as of right now. Three of the first 94 picks.
4 of the first 94.
So one of those picks, I'm going under the guys that one of those picks is going to be a starter for you. Okay, you have to. We just have to understand that it is what it is at this point. I mean, the NFC is nowhere near as talented as the AFC overall, and as we talked about the other day, in a lot of cases, it's gotten worse. Tampa doesn't have a quarterback. Rodgers could be leaving. Minnesota is what it is, although they do have Brian Flores calling the defense now. Minnesota, I still have to wait and see with them. Chicago's still building. Detroit could be, and I emphasize the word could be, that next team that people are talking about from start to finish. Carolina, no quarterback. You know, the Giants, okay, Daniel Jones is back. So what? Okay. Washington, they don't have a quarterback right now. So this is wide open for the Eagles. Wide open, you know. And I do believe that they will win their division, which will put them in the playoffs. Now, what happens beyond that is wait and see. But this team, if this Eagles team was in the AFC, I'd have a little bit more apprehension about how good they could be when you stack up what's in the AFC compared to the NFC. But to navigate the waters of the NFC, this team is fine.
Yeah, no question. And think about what's coming back offensively. You got what you may lose: Kelsey, Sayamalu, Sanders. They're the three you may lose. Now, Kelsey you're not going to lose him to another team. It's just a matter of whether he's going to retire or not. There's nothing you can do about that. If he wants to come back, he'll be an Eagle. They'll figure out whatever they're going to pay him. He made 14 last year. So he's got a what they call a dummy season in his contract. Basically, it's done for cap purposes, but his contract will void Kelsey's in the offseason. So he's essentially a free agent, even though people don't bring him up as a free agent. Okay.
Right.
Frankly, I think Sayamalu is really good, but he's going to make way too much on the open market, and you have a guy that you can plug in if Kelsey's back with Cam Jurgens. Miles Sanders is probably going to walk. I just think it's inevitable. If he does, you can find a running back. You can find a guy that gives you close to that kind of productivity. That's not impossible. And you already have a couple of good guys here.
Not only that, but you can find one in the draft.
Yep.
Look how many middle round picks in the NFL excel in their first year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can find another young player, hungry player in the middle round of the draft. He may not give you what Miles gave you last year, but he can be serviceable in this type of offense where it's a running back by committee. Definitely serviceable. Mm-hmm. You know, even if Boston Scott doesn't come back, like I said, you get a low tier veteran and get one in the draft.
Yep.
And we've seen Eagles do that. Even during the championship year of 2017, look at the three-headed monster they had a running back then with Blunt, Jay Ajayi, and a rookie named Corey Clement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that worked fine.
Yep.
You know, then. And it worked fine this past year, even though Miles was the lead back. He wasn't an overused back. You know, he played behind a dominant offensive line, put up great numbers. And even if the Eagles lose those two players on the offensive line, they're still going to be one of the best offensive lines in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
No question about it.
You have all of that going. You have a head coach who has done, a really good job thus far. You have an offensive coordinator who has, been here for the last 2 years, who has a relationship with the quarterback, a very good relationship with the quarterback. And not to mention you have two stud receivers, a stud tight end, and some other great pieces along that offensive line. I mean, Lane Johnson had a season for the ages last year. I mean, just an incredible season. Landon Dickerson, has established himself already as a Pro Bowler, so there's a lot to be encouraged about. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to be as good necessarily. It just doesn't. That's just the way that this thing looks. And, you're right. Looking at the NFC, Dallas is good, but they're not great. Washington and New York are improved, but they're not. I'm not even sold that they're both going to be playoff teams next year. Minnesota's good, might be a lot better with Brian Flores as their defense coordinator. We'll see. Detroit's better. I think Green Bay, because Rodgers is likely out of there, is going to take a hit. Chicago is not even close. Even though the Saints have Derek Carr, I don't think they're great. It makes them the best team in a bad division. And out west, the thing you don't know about the 49ers yet is what's the quarterback position.
Yeah.
So that's where the Eagles have a great advantage. Like the 49ers don't lose much on defense, and most of their offense comes back. But when you don't know about your quarterback, and this is why I keep emphasizing the Jalen Hurts part of this thing, anything can happen. Anything can happen. You could be really good, and if your quarterback can't play, it doesn't matter.
And see, Dallas has a good nucleus, but Dallas has 20-something free agents to navigate through also to put a team in the field. And when you consider Jerry Jones is running the show, Mike McCarthy is calling the plays, Dallas is going to lose games they should have won, just like they did this past year.
Time management, questionable play calling,
exactly,
all those kind of things. Yeah,
and somebody said, well, when is Jalen Hurts beat Dak? You don't have to beat Dak. They still won a division, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Who won a division last year?
Yeah, right.
Okay, you're right. Dak for whatever reason lights up the Eagles when he plays the Eagles. Mm-hmm. Didn't get him a division title. See, and I don't trust Mike McCarthy. I don't trust Jerry Jones at the helm. I don't trust the whole organization. It's always something with that organization. And so I just think when you look at how the Eagles are structured, I'll take Nick Sirianni over Mike McCarthy any day of the week. I'll take the Eagles front office over the Cowboys front office any day of the week to put together a competitive team on the field. And when you add all that up with the player personnel we know that's coming back for the Eagles compared to the player personnel coming back for the Cowboys right now, I put the Eagles, and that's not a biased opinion. That's just looking at apples and oranges across the board, across their rosters.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, and I think I think people. You just need to understand. I'm not speaking for you. I'll just speak for me, like where I'm coming from. I don't love that they're losing all these people, but you're still a good enough team that you're going to be able to be in the mix for this thing. And especially if your offense really thrives.
Absolutely.
You can still win this thing. I think that's for sure. And here's the other part that we're not taking into account. Yes, they may lose a lot of these people, but there's the other portion of what Howie can go out there and make happen. And obviously you got to get the draft right, but there's going to be free agents out there for far less money that can help them and help.
There are going to be so many guys scrambling once the feeding frenzy, the first week and a half, the dust settles on that. There's going to be a lot of guys scrambling. Okay, just get me what you can. It's going to be a lot of them. And as we saw, there's going to be a lot of them sitting there in late April, early May, mid-May, who just want to get back on the team. And they'll take, even though they may do it begrudgingly, they'll take a one-year deal just to stay relevant.
Yeah, prove it kind of deals.
And considering the Eagles' locker room culture, the fact that they did get to the Super Bowl, the Eagles would be one of the destinations people want to come to because of their history, how the organization treats its players. Look at what they already have in house, so on and so forth. If I'm picking between going to Philadelphia or Atlanta or Carolina, where am I going? I'm going to Philadelphia.
Yeah,
plain and simple.
Yeah, and look, if there's ever a Howie's hot right now, and you're not going to hit on everything, but for the most part, between trades and free agents and the guys that he drafted, because I think even the players that we didn't see last year are going to be able to play. If there's ever a circumstance where you feel good about this, it's right now. He's I think seeing things very well. Use the terminology from a player standpoint, but I think Howie's right now is in a good groove. So I feel like he's going to get the draft right. Not going to hit every one of them, but he's going to get the draft right, and he will make enough of those kind of, we talked about it earlier, the Malcolm Jenkins kind of moves when TJ Ward and Jarius Byrd are out there, and you grab the right guy.
People were screaming they wanted Ward and Byrd when they were out, and Malcolm Jenkins. We could have had this one. Well, lo and behold, obviously they knew a lot more than we did, because Malcolm turned out to be a cornerstone for that defense for a number of years, and was a significant reason why they won that Super Bowl in 2017. And so, like I said, in Howie I trust until he proves me wrong. I mean, I've been up and down on Howie for years, and Howie admitted, he needed to do some growing. Yeah. He needed to learn to listen to people a lot better on the outside who were trying to feed him information. He had to learn that maybe sometimes he's not the smartest guy in the room. There are other people that have significant contributions that could help make this team better. And he showed that over the last couple of years. He started listening to people more. And lo and behold, look at how this team has ascended over the last couple of years, from 9-8, to 14-3 to a Super Bowl appearance. Yeah. Now, They did it. They did it with a less than stellar team in 2021. They built an incredible roster in 22. Now we have to wait and see what kind of roster they can build for 23.
Well, I see things like, Yacht says Howie let the Stars just walk out. He gambled and lost. I'm not really sure where the he gambled and lost part.
What do you mean he gambled and lost?
There was no gamble signing the players that he signed, and in fact took them to within 3 points of winning a Super Bowl. So there's no gamble there. They all turned out to be studs. Do you not think, Yacht, that Howie knew that he was going to have a hard time re-signing all these guys, especially if the quarterback played the way that he played? Like, this is just all of a sudden a surprise to him. This is what people don't get. This is what people just don't understand. He absolutely knew that this was going to be the case. Yeah,
there's a lot of comments that I don't even look at or give credit to because you're not thinking about the bigger picture here. You're really not thinking. You're just throwing stuff out there. Yeah. That's fine. Do what you do, but I'm not going to sit there and acknowledge it because it's a conversation you can't win because people are not going to look at the realistic side of what teams do year in and year out.
Yeah,
look at how many teams try to load up and can't do it and can't go anywhere and continue to be middle of the road teams. You look at it. Do you want your team to be like the Rams team? Okay, yeah, they won their Super Bowl. Now they're in purgatory for how many years to come?
Right.
The way this team is structured right now, it still gives you a chance in the NFC.
Yeah.
Look, that's all you need is a chance.
It wasn't a Rams situation. The Rams won it, but it wasn't a Rams situation where, you're all of a sudden have no draft picks and you're just letting everybody and their mother walk. It's not one of those situations. No. You knew this was these guys were coming up in free agency, and this was going to be part of the process that you had to deal with. And this is also where you got to get it right with your drafts, and that's to be determined. Like, to sit here and prematurely say they're gonna stink on either side of the ball, or what, mostly defense, but what they're gonna stink is assuming that Jordan Davis can't play, that Nakobe Dean can't play, that whoever you draft in probably your first 3 picks can't play. We saw the Jets plug in rookies last year,
yes, and
not only contribute but become studs. So if you get it right, they're going to help you, and it's a lot cheaper.
No question about it. So that's why I said I can't formulate an opinion until I see it, until we get to next September. You can't even measure anything by preseason games because the games are so vanilla, number one, and number two, hardly anybody plays of any worth. Most of the guys that are playing the preseason games now are the guys that are just crossing their fingers that they make the back end of a roster.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So you're not going to see anything.
There's a lack of comprehension from trolls, and certain folks are trolls and they just don't understand.
I'm glad you said that because I say it enough, and I'm just not paying attention to it.
No, I think that it's a tough thing with that league in that you see what some teams do. Like Dallas put themselves in a really tough bind with Ezekiel Elliott. There are other contracts out there. That's just one example, but there are other contracts out there that really hamstring teams. I don't see that with the Eagles. Now, you're going to have to pay your quarterback a lot of money, which changes the way you go about things, but that's the cost of doing business. That's not an irresponsible contract that Jalen Hurts is going to get. It's just what it is more than anything else.
Every team that identifies a franchise quarterback has to eventually pay their quarterback, and it affects the overall roster.
Yeah.
Okay. And as we see, some teams are better strategically navigating through those waters in terms of building a team. Okay. And that's what we have to bank on that the Eagles are going to do, be able to build a competitive team on the defensive side of the football. Now, again, we sit here talking about we sit here feeling that we know that defense is going to be gutted. Maybe they can bring 1 or 2 of those guys back. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't know what Howie's going to do, how many players he's going to approach to restructure. We don't know if Brandon Graham is still going to give him that hometown discount. He might. We don't know. If you get a Brandon Graham back, even playing 35% of the snaps, that's a big win for you.
I agree. And if this Ed Kratz story, and if you're just tuning in, Ed Kratz from USA Today had a story today that said that the Eagles are working on a 2-year deal for Brandon Graham worth $6 million per year. So if that's like, that is unbelievably, that's a great contract for the Eagles organization if that's what you get him back at. And the beauty is you retain a guy who's a double-digit sack guy. He's not crushing you cap-wise, and you have him here for 2 more years who will continue to help grow some of those younger kids. That's critical for this team.
Absolutely.
I think, Derek, you can get him back at a reasonable rate. I think you can get certainly Edwards back at not a crazy number. Epps, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth with Epps. I'm not sure. What that's
Yeah,
gonna cost.
we keep hearing his price tag is going up because so many teams are interested in him, but to what degree? Is he the next Jordan Poyer? Is he the next Micah Hyde that Green Bay gave up on? We don't know. If Philly gave up on Jordan Poyer before he even got a chance to work up a sweat here.
Huge mistake. Yeah.
But it happens. Every team goes through that. Every team gives up a player that emerges somewhere else, and you sit there going, doggone it, I wish they had kept him.
Yep.
Eagles have done it before. They're going to do it again. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You just hope they minimize the mistakes this time and they flourish in terms of what they do overall.
Yeah, I think real concerns are just the amount of turnover on the defensive side. If you're talking about losing really quality players plus a defensive coordinator that wasn't in-house, a new linebacker coach, a new secondary coach. Now, you may move guys up who had been here, but still, you're losing. You've lost, five coaches altogether, 4 on the defensive side. Those are real concerns. That's real.
Big concerns.
And
we don't know how good these coaches are going to be.
We don't.
They've been given these roles. I mean, the size been okay, but when you look at his overall numbers, they're not wow factor numbers.
They're not.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not.
Okay. So we don't know. We don't know how this defensive coaching staff is going to pan out, coupled with an influx of new players. You don't know. You don't know. So that's why I'm not going to sit here and criticize. Eagles had to hire somebody. We thought Denard Wilson had the inside track. Obviously, they felt they needed to go in a different direction in terms of defensive philosophy, and they did.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Denard decides he's out. So now you got to replace him. You got to replace a secondary coach. That's a lot in one off season. That's not the norm in one off season.
It is.
Yeah.
I feel really good about the offense. I don't know about the defense.
I don't know.
Is the way, just frankly, I go into the season. I know they have a quality quarterback and a quality coach, and that can take you a long way in that league, especially if your quarterback is protected by arguably the best offensive line in football with 2 studs on the outside and a stud tight end. I think you could figure it out. It may just be a different approach to last year. You may have to outscore teams. That's as simple as that. All right, 2:00, we will get into the NFL segment, give you the details of what's going on with Lamar Jackson, what's going on with Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Rodgers. We're going to rank the 2020 NFL quarterback class, Derek. All right, it was Burrow, it was Tua, it was Herbert, it was Hurts. We'll rank those guys and look at the AFC teams that are close. So we'll get into all that at 2:00. We come back. Little Sixers. They beat the T-Wolves last night and finished up a really quality road trip. 4-1 on the road were the Sixers. So we'll talk about that when we return. He's D Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Flynn Tree Services. Yes, Flynn Tree Services is an experienced, licensed, and insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They offer cost-effective solutions to any tree problem that you may face. So if you have any type of tree issues, they're just a quick phone call away. And they are experts at trimming all types of trees. And they serve southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and northern Delaware. Flynn Tree Services specializes in tree removal, stump grinding, as well as tree pruning. It's a good time to get your trees evaluated where the weather's not crazy. We might have that last rush of winter. You never know, but you want to make sure that everything is good to go. Get that evaluation done. Go to their Facebook or Instagram page for more information or a sampling of their work. Give Flynn Tree Services a call at 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flynntreeservices.com.